All right, Satnam, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us live on Instagram. I'm just waiting for my colleague Angela to join in and we'll get this conversation started. So if you're here and you want to give a shout out, please do that. Rashida, hi. Satnam, nice to see you. Zahira, nice to have you. Thank you so much for joining in. Today's topic is Kundalini Yoga and ADHD. So, just waiting for Angela to join. Please welcome, bring yourself, bring your friends into the chat, and we're happy to chat with you. Awesome. All right. So just taking a few moments while Satnam, while you get ready for this very interesting conversation. We are planning on a conversation about ADHD. How does it work? What is it actually? What are the challenges? What are the benefits? What are the gifts? And then exploring a Kundalini yoga practice so that you can learn how to manage the brain that is doing this kind of interesting stuff. All right, so Karma Life, thank you. Mindfully Naked, yay, there you are. And okay, here we go. Just about to begin. Welcoming Angela into the conversation. Angela, are you there? Hey, there we go. Okay.
Hi, Satnam.
Satnam, okay, great to have you. We've got lots of
Yes.
people waiting for our conversation, but before we begin, I wanted to just take a moment here. For those of you who are in Canada, today is September 30th, and we are observing, as a nation, we are observing National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And this is, in particular, this is referring to the residential school system that was established here in Canada by the government and by the church. And the idea here was to remove children from their homes, Indigenous children from their homes, Métis, Indigenous, First Nations children from their homes, in order to, quote unquote, remove the Indian. And what it ended up doing was leaving a legacy of a lot of hurt and betrayal and death and destruction and a massacre, basically, of generations of children. So in Canada here, this is September 30th. This is the day that we're recognizing. I'm wearing orange in a symbolic tribute to that particular day of mourning and also day of reconciliation. There cannot be reconciliation without truth. And what we're discovering now is how invasive and cruel the residential school system was. It forcibly removed children from their homes, and in many cases, the children died. We've here in this country found 6,000 unmarked graves, 6,000 unmarked graves from children who were entrusted to the government and these schools in order to keep them safe and supposedly teach them English and the ways of the West, and definitely went south on that. So a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, wearing orange for that. All right. And now, without further ado, Angela, nice to have you. Angela, you've been part of our Kundalini Yoga teacher training program. You've now stepped into the role of assisting and helping prepare other graduates for their journey through their KYTT program. And so I want to say thank you. It's been amazing to work with you. And we came across some interesting stuff about you. So I want to dive in if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because we always have great discussions. So I'm sure this is going to be another great one. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share this journey. And I guess I'll just start with recognizing that everybody's journey is going to look very different than my own. And it varies from person to person. And so it's going to look different. Your story will be very different than mine. And, ADHD, it's a very sensitive topic as we kind of discuss this a little bit. There's so much information out there, and there's a lot of helpful information out there, but also a lot of unhelpful information. So it is important that, you're speaking to therapists and getting information from maybe even scientists. And so, for example, Dr. Gabor Mate, he's an excellent resource because not only is he a doctor, but he also experiences and has dealt with his own ADHD and has children who also have that. So his perspective is very, very, it resonates a lot with me. So ADHD, I'll use his definition of what it means and what it looks like. And so he states that ADHD has three major features, and one of those features is poor attention skills. The other is a deficiency in impulse control, and also hyperactivity. And so any two of this can suffice for like a diagnosis. And there are actually also three types of ADHD. So you can be predominantly hyperactive impulsive, you can be predominantly inattentive, or you can be a combination of the two. And it's also not so simple to just say you can be this or that. There's, I don't want to put people in boxes either and say you're this or that, but this does allow you to kind of have an understanding of yourself, a better understanding of yourself. And, there's several symptoms that have to be present in your life. And it has to be present for at least 6 months, and it has to be inappropriate for your developmental level. And, these symptoms, they interfere with your quality of like your social, your school, your work functioning. It may impact two more than another. You might have one that you're very high functioning and no one would ever know because, like we said, ADHD doesn't have a look, right? There is no image of what ADHD looks like. And so to get a diagnosis is not straightforward, and it will look very different for everybody. So, I'm going to just also add that there's nobody to blame here. This isn't, sometimes we get stuck on, well, whose fault is it that I have ADHD? Was I born this way? Was I nurtured this way? And I don't think that's important. I think that takes away from the person's lived experience and how we can actually be there to support the individual and what they need. I'm not saying that information isn't helpful also in understanding like your past, your history, how everything has played a role. It's definitely important, but it's not what we should be focused on, you know? Yeah.
I'm fighting this
And
cough.
it's okay.
So, okay, so the way that we learned about this was in the Kundalini Yoga teacher training program. Everybody did a deep dive into a topic of personal interest called personal inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you shared that, this is that you've been living with ADHD, you've had your diagnosis, and there was there's a discovery involved in, oh, this is who I am and this is how I am. What did you notice most about how the diagnosis impacted you?
Yes, it was at first something that is shocking because you have your own stigmas to go through, right? You're like, well, that can't be me because it's my own stories. But when I actually started to read and understand what ADHD was, it was a relief. I felt like for the first time, I understood the challenges I faced in my life. I understood the challenges I faced in school, in work, in my relationships. And I started to actually become more aware of the impact that it was having on my life. Whereas before, I kind of just passed it off as, oh, that's just me. I'm very forgetful. Or that's just me. I'm always late. Little things that I did in my life. And so, one of the things I'll mention too is as a woman, as a girl growing up, it's actually that very common that we go undiagnosed because we don't tend to display the hyperactivity that's more commonly seen in boys. So we tend to internalize the struggle and we believe it's limited to ourselves. So not a lot of people will notice. And these symptoms then can be like coupled with anxiety. And this can be what propels us to go and do really well through school. But because, you don't want to do badly, right? We have this like, we want to be perfect and show up the way people want us to show up. But then things start to get harder as you get older, and things start to get like your relationships, they they definitely suffer from some of my symptoms. And so what I started to recognize is that different things in my life. Like I was often very forgetful in my daily tasks. I'm easily distracted. I often lost things like phone, keys, jackets, wallets, you name it. I lost it. I forgot it. Very fidgety. I was super fidgety. I had difficulty waiting my turn to speak. I just wanted to jump in and say my piece. And I was also very chatty, right? I was like a chatterbox, right? So, um, and I had a big family. So a lot of these things seemed so normal in my family to be trying to talk over everybody and trying to have your say, right? So, yeah, these impacts started to come into my life. And when I started to become aware of more how it was impacting my life, I then realized I needed to start doing some things to change that. And that's when Kundalini Yoga kind of started to, well, this program in particular started to come into play.
Mm.
And it was kind of put as like, okay, I need routine, I need ritual, I need to learn how to focus, I need to learn how to surrender. And these were all things that I remember. One of the things that you had said, to me was to trust the process. Surrender and trust. Those were huge mantras for me throughout the program. So, yeah, I would say that one of the things that I started to learn when I uncovered this about myself is that there was nothing wrong with me and there's nothing I had to fix. And um, I may have initially thought I was going into something to fix something about myself. And what I learned was that there was nothing to fix. It is I'm completely perfect as I am. And that there's nothing, my mind just sees the world differently, right? And so I started to recognize that that's actually a very beautiful thing to have and a very powerful thing to recognize because now I can stand in that power. Now I can stand in that knowing of, um, I know who I am. I trust that the universe will support me in this. And coming to the mat every day, going through those thoughts that go in your mind and the stories that I share, that's what this program allowed me to do, was to just play with that and be okay with that and surrender to what comes up. It's been a wild journey. It really has.
Yeah.
It wasn't linear at all. And my life has never been, so it wouldn't be fun that way, right?
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so I would just definitely say that for me, when I did this personal inquiry, I started to realize just how much Kundalini Yoga was actually supporting my healing process and my healing journey. And it was through the ritual, it was through showing up at the mat every single day, no matter how I felt. Because at the end of my practice, I knew I actually kind of had a lot more clarity in my own truth, in my own knowing. And there was also a lot more peace, and my mind was much quieter, which allowed me to have more intention in my day.
Awesome. Okay, so let me pick into or dive into a couple of these key elements. I think ritual in general is something that offers stability and security. And if you can find that in your day-to-day life, I think it offers a way to make life meaningful. And one of the things that I've discovered in my readings today in preparation for our talk is that mental health recovery, so whatever it happens to be, from depression, from anxiety, from um, recognizing what your diagnosis is that in order to have a meaningful life, however way we fall on any spectrum, is number one, feeling like you are living your full potential,
Mm-hmm.
and number two is that you have meaning in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the two key components that make anything feel better. So I really, kudos to you for finding like that light bulb moment where you went, okay, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for purpose. And I think that that's really powerful. If I could add one more piece to this. So some of the reading has some very interesting terms, okay? Let's put it that way. And one of them is a term that I have been hearing now for a few months and maybe even a year or so, and that is something called neurodivergent.
Mhm.
Okay? So simply meaning wired differently. And I think in what you said is that that's your power. That's become the place where you see your own power, that yeah, you think differently, and the world needs more different thinkers. And from a spiritual perspective, um, in discovery of kids with autism or kids with ADHD, and obviously grown-ups as well, is that there's sort of path that you've chosen on a soul level, on a spiritual level, that says this is the way I'm going, and I will not be deterred from my path.
Mm.
There's no, we can't really force. We can't really force that on you. We can't really force that because your pattern has already been set by you. And
Yeah.
right. So the ideas of putting, or, like sort of forcing you through a certain curriculum or forcing you through a certain set pattern of growing up or a set pattern of expectations doesn't actually work. So in
No.
some ways, you've kind of safeguarded yourself from conformity.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't without its challenges for sure, right?
Yeah.
But that is the beautiful part, actually. You're right. That was a huge celebration for me when I was able to embrace that and look at it as, why is this supposed to be a bad thing again? Like, I'm very creative, I'm super funny, I see things differently, and that's one of the like awesome traits that we have. And we're very personable people. A lot of people we know in our lives have ADHD, and they're usually really awesome.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely. So we touched on a little bit of your practice. Now, before the pandemic, I would say, a lot of people thought, oh, yoga, meditation, woo-woo, not helpful,
Mhm.
too mumbo jumbo, too spiritual. And what I'm hearing now more and more is actually this has very practical applications, very practical ways of providing alternate therapies. I mean, your choices are, for some people, there's no choice, but there's medication and then there's alternate complementary therapies. And it sounds like you steered yourself in the direction of complementary therapies. So in the range of Kundalini Yoga, what practice have you found that's been most beneficial to helping you function at your optimal with ADHD?
Yeah. So I would say that first of all, because I've tried mindfulness practices, meditation, one of the benefits that I really find in this practice is the use of mantra and mudra. And that really helps direct my focus in a certain way. And so because I'm trying to do something in a practice, it takes away from the monkey mind, the constant jumping around. And so it gives me an alternative focus, whether it's focusing on my third eye or on my lunar point or whatever it might be. That's been very helpful. Repeating mantra to me has been very helpful. So that's where like Kundalini yoga has very much differed. But the practice that's been super helpful for me is alternate nostril breathing every morning. It is amazing. 3 minutes of alternate nostril breathing, and your mind is clear and ready to go for the day. You can
Okay,
really feel like you can handle it all.
awesome. Okay.
And I'd have to say, in terms of like the practice, it is PKD, one of my favorites, and the four movements, intentional and very, it felt very much like that it was exactly what I needed. An openness, ready to receive the gifts that I have been already given. All of the movements that I move through really help me embrace ADHD for myself personally.
Okay, so I'll drop the link for that particular movement practice below in our chat so that everyone can take a look.
Yeah.
But let's, while we're here together, let's do that 3 minutes of alternate nostril breathing. So if you're
Mm.
joining us at home, this is a practice that helps actually to balance both hemispheres of the brain, and it uses mudra, hand position, in order to do that. So we're channeling prana energy from one hemisphere of the brain to the other so that the two hemispheres can talk to each other. And, you know, just even a cursory reading about ADHD and anything to do with neural pathways, the nervous system, the vagus nerve, all of that really revolves around the idea of breath work and influencing the brain. So I think you found a really simple, straightforward practice that's really easy to do and can be done any time of the day, but actually really works very well. So congratulations on finding that. It's one of the introductory breathworks that we do. So I'm sure it's been a good friend of yours all the way through. Okay,
Yes.
so let's dive in now. Angela's going to do a little demo for me while I set this up for you. So sit in a comfortable position. I'm sitting at a desk right now, but you may want to sit cross-legged and make sure that your body is relaxed, shoulders are relaxed, and just take a few moments to be here, present with your body. You can gently close your eyes and then feel the sensation of breath as you inhale, and feel the sensation of breath as you exhale. Hear the sound of your breath as you inhale, and hear the sound of the breath as you exhale. One more option is to visualize the breath. So inhale and see the breath. Maybe you see it as a color or a shape or a pattern, and then exhale in the same way. Good. And now we're moving directly to alternate nostril breathing. So take your right hand up and just relax your left hand down to your lap. You can bring the first finger and thumb to touch on your left side so that you have a lock of energy and wisdom. Okay, so pressing your thumb against the side of your right nostril, inhale left. And now with the pinky, cover the left nostril, exhale right. Inhale right. And cover, exhale left. Inhale left. Pause, cover, exhale right. Inhale right. Pause, cover, exhale left. Good. And just continue now. Give yourself a few moments to explore. Just going to give a couple of shout outs. I see Matt's here. I saw Nurse Jackie here. I saw Karma Life here. I saw Rashida here. Thank you so much for joining in. And if this conversation is resonating with you, I'd love if you drop a comment below and give Angela some love for sharing her story. Yes, I see the love. I see the waves. Okay, so again, alternate nostril breathing is a way of balancing both hemispheres of the brain. So our bodies are cross, how do I say this? Cross-wired, that's the best way. So as you inhale through the left nostril, you're actually activating the right hemisphere of the brain and vice versa. So when you inhale, you're sending a direct signal to that part of the brain, hey, wake up, come to attention. We need you on board and online. And it allows not only for the full brain to come into alertness, but actually for better communication across both hemispheres. So Angela, I don't know how you did it, but you found the exact perfect thing. Ruhi, thank you very much for joining. So great to see you. Ruhi, you've been very instrumental in helping me to be aware of the farmer's struggle in India, the breadbasket of India, going through struggles of having um, all the work that farmers do acknowledged and also monetarily compensated. Thank you for being there. All right, let's do a few more rounds. Get yourself situated into the breath. Thank you, Matt. The Aleister Crowley breathing method. Yes, also known as alternate nostril breathing, found across all Ayurvedic and yogic traditions as well. Open to all, available to all. Awesome. So wherever you are now, take your final inhalation. Keep your breath, hold your breath, relax your hand down, and softly relax your breath. Come back to that full, long, deep breath. Give yourself a few rounds there. Yes, abundance for all. Good. And now to make sure that we've reset the nervous system, take a deep inhale, squeeze your hands, squeeze your feet, squeeze your face, make a funny face, and let it go with a powerful breath. Awesome. Give yourself a little shake as we relax out of the practice and back into conversation. Aha, so there we go. Okay, beautiful.
My favorite.
Yeah, your favorite, and I know very accessible. So something that, if you've never done yoga before and that's not your thing, you can still do some interesting breathing patterns and bring yourself back on board and, back into a place where you can really work with yourself and work with your talents. All right, I see Denise is on the line. Yay, Denise, great to see you. Okay, a couple of questions before we wrap up here,
Yes.
and that is, Angela, what's your next step for now? Okay, so let me ask you this: if you were to offer some advice or next steps for somebody who's interested in Kundalini Yoga and has ADHD, what would you suggest? What's next?
I would say definitely pursue the journey that is going to be right for you. And if that means taking a Kundalini Yoga teacher program, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a teacher to a bunch of students and have a class like that, but it could be that you are taking the role of the teacher in your life, the leader in your life. And so Kundalini Yoga isn't necessarily just for how can I teach the poses and the postures. It's how to show up for yourself in your life in a certain way. And so in a like more sacred and intentional way. And so I think that if anybody who's considering taking this and you have the like, oh, but I don't know if I want to teach, um, that's not necessarily the intention. I do believe, like you said, we're all teachers. We all have the ability to be a teacher, but maybe that's a teacher to yourself. It could be a teacher to the people closest to you in your life. And the impact can be as big or small as it needs to be. So I would say go for it. If you have a calling for it, if something is pulling you in the direction, trust that it's taking you where you need to go and that it's going to take you to learn the things you need to learn, hear the things you need to hear or don't want to hear. Just know that, yeah, that's been something. This program will definitely have you facing all of your resistances. And that might mean you want to run away, but it's an invitation to lean in and to hear what's really being said. So I think if you are looking for support in a community, then doing it in a program style where you have that support, it's going to be there's more opportunity for transformation, I think, and especially when you're held in a very loving container. So love transforms, and there's a lot of love there. So
Awesome. I'm glad you
yeah,
found that. I mean, that's really valuable because when, love is the most powerful force in the universe. And if you can walk with that, you know,
yeah.
Power
And
to
love
you.
isn't always just saying everything's okay, you know? It's acknowledging. It's really it can be challenging, right? Love can be being real. And being real isn't always warm and fuzzy.
Rarely, actually.
Yeah.
Awesome. So as we wind up, thank you for first of all for sharing your time with us. I want to do
Yeah.
something called rapid fire, okay? And that's borrowed from Brene Brown and her amazing approach to doing podcasts.
Love
So
her.
I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and you just give me what's on top of your head, okay? And this is our way of
Okay.
are you a little okay? Okay, Angela, your favorite song for a rainy night? Go.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna say anything Justin Bieber.
Okay. All right. Food that makes your mouth happy.
Oh, just one? Okay. Margarita pizza and ice cream.
Okay, awesome. I'll take it. Most used breathing technique. I have a guess.
Definitely alternate nostril breathing. That
Awesome.
is 100%. Yeah.
Super. Every morning, 3 minutes. Perfect.
Yes.
What are you reading right now?
Educated by Tara Westover, I believe is her.
Okay. Okay. And what
Yeah.
which place in the world do your ancestors come from?
Portugal.
Portugal. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. We do that on the weekly,
Yes.
and I hope that this has been helpful for everybody who's leaning into this conversation, working with your own extra specialness, however way that unfolds for you. Remember that we have lots of resources on YouTube, Yoga Vision Online, and I've been there for about 10 years now, and lots of great resources. So anything that you're looking for to help develop, personally look at your life a little bit differently, find your life purpose, find your next step, look for clarity. All of that's there and waiting for you on YouTube, Yoga Vision Online. As Angela said, we have a yoga teacher training program which follows this particular stream of yoga and allows us to really dive into the tools and techniques to get into our nervous system, because that's where the fundamental changes happen, is when we tap into how we're wired and give ourselves other opportunities besides the hardwiring and then also the experiences of life. And then finally, if you want to connect with me personally for your own Kundalini yoga practice, I can do that with a numerology consult. All of that information is available on yogavisiononline.com. So it's yogavision.com. And Angela, I will talk to you very shortly. And for the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been really a pleasure to have this conversation, and the replay will be up on YouTube very shortly. Satnam.
Satnam.
Bye for now.
Bye.